Friends, what you're seeing is a country fighting for its survival in real time. That is, Iran is literally fighting for its life.
The United States military began major combat operations in Iran.
And as I have said in the past, there's only one crime in this world: to be weak. And now Iran has to prove that it is not weak. That at least it must put up a fight enough to deter the aggression. The situation on the ground is changing very fast. So this video cannot be about news. It will be about analysis. Just in the past hour, Bahrain, Kuwait, Abu Dhabi and Qatar have been attacked. So this video will have 4 objectives. The first is to explain what is the purpose of these attacks. 2, why did Israel and the US attack in the first place? What are the larger reasons? 3rd, what is Iran's response? And 4th, what is the impact on India? Well, the purpose of these attacks is unambiguous, and it is clear from President Trump's speech, that 8-minute long video that he recorded. And it is unambiguously regime change, because he's asking the Iranian public to come out. He is in fact telling the American public also that you have to be ready for some casualties because these are major combat operations. The nature of the attacks also, that is, the cities that have been targeted in the first wave are those where rebellion had occurred, protests had occurred earlier, 2 months ago. The targets are regime headquarters of the president, of the supreme leader Khamenei, of the Iranian Republican Guard, of the army, navy, etc. So there is no doubt about it that this time it is not just the missiles or the nuclear installations which have been targeted. It is wholesale regime change. Now the larger purpose of these attacks, that is the larger reason for them, is different for the United States and slightly different from Israel, even though Israel ultimately influences US policy, as I've explained in the past. For Netanyahu, the motivations are clear. He has his election in the next few months. He has to show some achievement to the Israeli people because he was under pressure because of the poor performance of his government and his personal poor performance, which resulted in the October 7, 2023 attacks by Hamas. This explains his outside response, not just in the destruction of Gaza, but also in Lebanon, Syria, and now finally, repeatedly in Iran. It is also the culmination of a decades-long quest by Netanyahu. That is, Netanyahu has constantly wanted the destruction of all of Israel's surrounding large countries. So he first helped to destroy Iraq with the help of the Israel lobby in America and the neoconservatives, neocons, in 2003, and left it in a very weakened state. Then during the civil war in Syria, he insisted with Obama not to intervene because he wanted a weakened Assad and a weakened regime in place. And now finally, the culmination of decades of emphasis on Iran is to not just destroy the regime, but also to kind of splinter the country and leave it weak, so that no matter which regime now replaces this current one, Iran remains a weaker country. Maybe even the minority areas of Balochistan, Azerbaijan and the Marsh Arabs can separate. The motivations for Trump are slightly different, but not very different. That is, Trump has depended to even a greater extent than other US presidents on the Israel lobby. Actually, it's comparable to the amount that Biden got in donations. I have shown you in the past that a single family, Jewish family called the Adelson family, donated $250 million in a single election to Trump. And in fact, Trump says that they have promised, he's publicly saying it, they've promised another $250 million if I stand for election in 2028. And each time they used to come, they had only one demand, which was to work in favor of Israel. And there are numerous such donors, everybody from Larry Ellison, the head of Oracle, to Bill Ackman, etc. These are under pressure from such donors. He had gotten rid of the 2018 Obama-Iran agreement called the JCPOA agreement, even when the American intelligence as well as the UN said that Iran was in full compliance. It was not building any nuclear weapons, and he called it the worst deal possible, and he got rid of it. Since then, his goal has been regime change in Iran, And because of that, he has lied repeatedly. I mean, there are at least 4 major lies that he has told us. The first is that Iran did not want to negotiate, which is not true. Iran has been constantly ready since 2013 to negotiate. The second lie was that Iran is building long-range intercontinental ballistic missiles which can threaten the United States. That's absolutely not true. In fact, not true according to the Defense Intelligence Agency of the United States itself. The third is that Iran is building nuclear weapons, and it's again, there is no evidence that Iran has been either trying to build new weapons or delivery mechanisms or trigger mechanisms, neither from US intelligence, Israeli intelligence, or the UN. And along with these lies about Iran's nuclear program, what is hidden is another truth, that Israel is the only power in the Middle East which actually has nuclear weapons. Not only has nuclear weapons, but has a triad. That is, it has nuclear weapons in the form of land-based missiles, air-fired missiles, and submarine-fired missiles. So some countries are allowed to defend themselves, and some countries are not even allowed to have basic missiles for defense purposes. These double standards have defined Israeli and American policy in the Middle East for generations, primarily to defend Israel's interests because of the Israel lobby in the US, and in order to secure oil for the United States. Not oil per se, but the price of oil, because oil is a fungible commodity, as I've explained in the past. His fourth lie is that Iran threatens Europe and European partners there with its long-range missiles. Now we come to how will Iran respond. Some of it I've previously explained in my other videos, and we are seeing it. That is, Iran is attacking many of the US air bases and naval bases in the Persian Gulf, in Kuwait, in Qatar, in Bahrain, in Abu Dhabi. They've already done so. I had mentioned that the Houthis will be activated, and so will the Iraqi militias. And we now hear that Israel and the United States have already attacked Baghdad, headquarters of several of the Iraqi Shia militias. We might see some attacks on the Houthis also. Let's see how they respond. I had also mentioned that there could be attacks against US targets and embassies and troops in Europe and other parts of the world, maybe even Israeli targets. And this could be done by sleeper cells, by Hezbollah, and maybe by Al-Qaeda as well. As I had explained, that the effective head of the Al-Qaeda, Saif al-Adil, has been photographed in Iran. And I had told you that there's a UN report, counterterrorism report, which says that Al-Qaeda is planning attacks in Europe, both to revive itself and also to get some fresh new recruits. So we might expect some of those as well, because literally Iran is now struggling for its life. And they will have to create pain, possibly even in the Strait of Hormuz and in the Persian Gulf, on various oil terminals, on oil tankers, in order to shoot up the price of oil so that there is some economic pain imposed also on the United States and its allies. Now, coming to what will be the impact in India. There are 3 major ways and 1 minor way in which India will be affected. The first, as I had explained, was oil prices will shoot up. Oil prices shooting up would mean several things for us. Our stock market will be affected. Of course, prices of everything in India will go up, inflation. Third is it will increase the deficit, foreign exchange deficit that we have, trade deficit, which will lead to a weakening of the rupee and inflationary pressure. It could thus indirectly affect our real estate market as well. The second point is that there are about 9 million Indian citizens working in GCC countries. They send huge remittances home. This makes up for some of our trade deficit. If these remittances are affected, then again, the overall balance of payments will be affected and the rupee will again weaken, and which will again mean more inflation, apart from hardship for certain families. This will also, of course, affect the physical security of our workers in the Gulf. That is, if this conflagration increases, it could also affect their job security in case those economies suffer a downturn. And it would also affect the value of real estate investments there. As you know, a lot of Indians have invested in the Gulf, so their real estate investments will suffer. If that happens, and obviously that will also contribute to a recession in India because it reduces their purchasing power. Finally, a prolonged conflict in West Asia That is, if Iran falls into a certain kind of chaos because it leads to a lengthy insurgency, as you know, there are about 25% of the population which is still loyal to the government, would have very deleterious effects on India in terms of an impact on our economy, on the security of oil flows. And so this could lead to a long-term recession as well in India. So let's hope this conflict doesn't get dragged too long. So please keep watching the channel, subscribe, and if you like any of my previous videos or shorts, please share it with your friends, because we are having a shortfall of subscribers and viewers, and a lot of money and effort goes into this. So any help from your side would be extremely beneficial. So keep watching, and until next time, Jai Hind.